It's time to take a look at all the upcoming characters and factions after version 1.2 with a lot of updated and new information. I've done all the events and quests in the game since day one, so I will try to keep it as accurate as possible with what I know from following the lore. Let's start with Section 6. Section 6 has been a big part of the main story since the beginning, and we have finally got an official announcement of one of their characters dropping soon, in version 1.3, Yanagi. Yanagi is the deputy chief of Section 6, and she uses a Naginata as her weapon. It has been confirmed that Yanagi will be of the anomaly role and electric type damage, which will make her quite important as the first rate-up character of the electric damage type. We have seen two of her attacks from the story missions, but whether or not it will be the same once she is released is another question. Next we have Harumasa. We haven't heard anything about Harumasa that's important in version 1.2, but we do know a lot about him regardless. Harumasa uses a bow as his weapon, and he is of the electric damage type attribute. One thing we unfortunately don't know yet is which role he will be, but I do think since he is using a bow, it should be some sort of damage type role, like attack or anomaly, but this is just my speculation. Another cool thing about Harumasa's bow is that it is actually two blades that can form together into a bow, and we have also seen two of his attacks from the story, where if you look closely he actually uses his two melee weapons in one of his attacks. Another character we have been waiting on since the closed beta tests of Zenless Zone Zero is Miyabi. Miyabi seems to be the leader of Section 6, and she uses a katana as her weapon. She was actually a playable character in one of the closed beta tests for Zenless Zone Zero, but apparently she was so popular that they had to remove her from the game and the standard banner to get more important data for the other standard characters too. But what we do know is that Miyabi was of the ice attribute, so it is highly likely that she will stay as an ice character, but we don't know which role she will be yet, since there weren't any roles in the game at that time. If I have to make an assumption looking at the cinematic feature in Section 6 and the lore about Miyabi, she seems to be a very determined and powerful character, so she has to be either attack or anomaly, but of course this isn't confirmed and just my speculation. Next we have the Sons of Calydon. The Sons of Calydon was the main focus of version 1.2, but we are still missing some potential characters in this faction. The first character we are missing is Lighter, which has been drip marketed for version 1.3. Through this drip marketing, it has been confirmed that Lighter will be of the stun role and fire damage type. Lighter uses a gauntlet as his weapon, and we have also encountered Lighter in the game countless of times, where you can also see some of his skills in some of the story missions. He does his uppercut attack that looks like this, and when he lands he does some fire AoE explosion, which I think is pretty cool. Another potential character we are missing from the Sons of Calydon is Big Daddy. This is a character that we have encountered a few times that is the former leader of the Sons of Calydon, but he says that he is retired now and handling some business stuff. It seems like he helps out the Sons of Calydon behind the scenes, and this might make him a playable character in the future, but of course nothing is confirmed on this, and maybe he just stays as a lore character for now. Next we have the Obol Squad from the Defense Force. The Obol Squad is from the Obsidian division of the Defense Force, and we only have Soldier 11 as a playable character for now from this faction. But we do know of 3 other members in the Obol Squad, and one of the most popular ones is Trigger. Trigger helps Soldier 11 in one of her missions, and she seems to have a good relationship with Soldier 11, working well together with her. Trigger uses a sniper rifle as her weapon, so it is confirmed that she is a sniper, but we don't know much about her outside of what Soldier 11 would tell us in Trust events, which just gives us more insight about Soldier 11's and Trigger's relationship. The second character we are still waiting on is the Obol Squad's captain, Captain Magus. Soldier 11 mentions this captain countless of times throughout her Trust events, and he seems like a very nice guy. She would always speak good of Captain Magus, and it turns out that this captain is someone that would tell his soldiers to go play games and watch movies sometimes, making him sound like a pretty cool guy. The third character of the Obol Squad is someone that Soldier 11 mentions only once so far when you meet up with her at the noodle restaurant. You end up eating spicy noodles with Soldier 11, and she says that the only teammate that listens to her recommendations of food is Seed. Then she goes on and says that the Seed is an intelligent construct, confirming that it's probably a robot or a character much like Chinyi, since Chinyi is also confirmed to be an intelligent construct in the game. We have also got a huge lore drop event in version 1.2 called Roaming the Ether. In this event you learn about a character called Spacebar. This Spacebar guy is from the Defense Force, but from another division called the Diamond Division. He would talk about the captain of the Obsidian Division Squad, which is probably Captain Magus, quite often, and how nice this captain is, and he would also mention a sniper that helped him a lot from the Chrysoberyl division. This could be triggered potentially because she may be transferred to Soldier 11's division or a completely new character, but we don't know for sure yet. But what we do know now is that there is 2 other divisions other than Soldier 11's Obsidian division, and another huge lore drop Spacebar gave us is a new faction called the Order, which he kept talking about. So let's talk about this new faction, the Order, and what exactly we know about them. We only know about the Order from the Roaming the Ether event, and we have never heard or seen them anywhere else in the game before, so I have decided to use my Japanese skills to see if the journals from this event states anything differently from English to Japanese, and it turns out that it actually does. So to summarize everything important that's different, first off, in Japanese it doesn't state their name at all, whereas in English it clearly states this organization's name as the Order. But on the other hand, in Japanese, Spacebar, the person who wrote these journals, states how the Order were murmuring about strengthening faith and spirit, so in Japanese it has a stronger emphasis on the Order being a religious group or cult. In Japanese, Spacebar also asks if there is actually still people nowadays that believes in religion. It also later mentions that Spacebar remembers one word, chant, when he spoke to the Order, whereas in Japanese it uses the word ode, as in a lyric poem. So it seems like the Order will be a new organization or faction in the game that's about faith and some kind of religion or cult. This means we can expect some kind of cult or religious group that we will meet in the game that is highly likely to become playable characters, but we are still lacking information about them, so this of course isn't confirmed yet. And when I say playable characters, looking at anime in the past that has some religion or is a part of some cult, to get an idea how they could look like, you get all kinds of cool characters like priests or even nuns. Think of Nicholas Wolfwood from Trigun or Rosette Christopher from Chrono Trigger. These are just some examples from pretty old anime shows, but it's just to give you an idea of what Hoyo can potentially do with this new faction, and I'm pretty hyped to see what's going to happen. Next we have the virtual idols. We haven't heard much about the virtual idols in version 1.2 unfortunately, but I will speak about what we do know so far about them. We have some pictures about this idol group, and from these pictures we know that there's at least 3 characters in this group. In the first picture we have a character with 2 different appearances. I've been told, and I do hope this is correct, that this character might be a reversed VTuber of some sort, which is quite interesting. On the left side is the person behind the VTuber skin, and on the right is the costume or skin. If this is correct, then this means that this character is a robot originally and uses a skin to look like a human, which actually makes sense. It also states that this is her weapon, so I guess she can shoot something out of her hands like lasers or something, but that's just my speculation. The second character seems to be dual-wielding hammers, which is pretty awesome, and I like that idea about her. There is also an electric mark on her here, so she could be of the electric damage attribute potentially, or maybe it's just a coincidence. The third character has a backpack and a megaphone, which makes sense for an idol group, and she is most likely the lead singer of this group. I wonder how exactly this megaphone and backpack will be used as her weapon. One thing all 3 of these characters has in common is their wings. 2 of them has their wings attached to them, giving me the idea that some of them will be robots. Next we have the Vanquishers. The Vanquishers were introduced in version 1.2 with Pulchra, Bellum, Morse, Lucius, and Pompey. Now just a heads up, there will be some spoilers that I need to talk about, so if you haven't finished the main story of chapter 4 yet, please be aware of this. If you have completed the story, we know that Pompey got betrayed by Lucius, and it seems like Lucius and Morse are working closely together and are the bad guys for now. But on the other hand, Pulchra and Bellum doesn't come off as villains at all. This means Pulchra and Bellum could potentially become playable characters in the future, and I think especially Pulchra could become playable because she said she is a mercenary, and when she fought against Bernice, Bernice asked her to join the Sons of Calydon because Pulchra didn't like her current employer. Eventually Pulchra seemed pretty interested, and Bernice confidently says that the Sons of Calydon is indeed the strongest. Pulchra would then later say,
"We'll see. Once you've actually proven you're the strongest, at least."
So Pulchra seems like she is down to join the Sons of Calydon, and if this happens, she will most definitely become a playable character, but we'll have to wait and see how the story will escalate with Pulchra being a mercenary. Now looking at Pulchra, she uses 2 pistols as her weapons with knives attached to them. She also has a skill that buffs her, and this allows her to dodge all attacks until the buff ends. She also throws traps on the ground that deals electric damage if you walk into it, so if she does become a playable character, I think she will be either electric damage or maybe physical, but of course this will probably change her skill set a bit if she does become playable. Next we have Mockingbird. Mockingbird is one of the factions we haven't seen much of in the game yet, except some references here and there, even with some trust events from Lycaon, which we will get to in a second. It turns out that Lycaon used to work for Mockingbird, and he left this group eventually. What we know about Mockingbird is that they are an infamous thieves syndicate that only steals from the rich and gives to the poor. After finishing Lycaon's story, we get to see a cutscene from Lycaon's past, where he was still with Mockingbird and he talks to one of his old friends, a vampire character from Mockingbird. We don't know this character's name that Lycaon was talking to, but this character seems to want to meet Lycaon again and calls him a traitor. There is also a trust event with Lycaon, which has a huge reference to Lycaon's vampire friend. You meet up with Lycaon and Lilac, the girl who wanted to join Mockingbird, and Lilac was writing a novel about a wolf Iron and his vampire friend. The story is about how a wolf Iron discovering his vampire friend's true nature, and they turned into sworn enemies in the end. While Lilac tells this story, Lycaon would just stand there and listen, and when you ask Lycaon what he thinks about the story, he said he's just thinking, don't worry about it. At the end of this trust event, Lycaon says art imitates life, which confirms indeed that he has a vampire friend and they are on bad terms. Whether or not this will be a playable faction or not is still to be confirmed, but there definitely seems to be a possibility, and if not, at least we have learned that vampires does exist in Zenless Zone Zero. Next we have the Void Hunters. We have finally got some huge updates in version 1.2 for 2 of the factions that are Void Hunters, so I will mainly just talk about them in this video. Now first off, the Void Hunters aren't a faction on their own, and it's actually a title that was given by the first mayor of Eridu to 7 characters for being key players in the suppression of the catastrophe an era ago. They were the Hunters of Disaster, the Defenders of the City, so they have a huge influence somehow in protecting the city in the past and are the good guys. The first character we got an update on is the Swordmaster, the 3rd generation head of the Hoshimi family who took down the Exalted Overseer. Now this confirms that Hoshimi Miyabi's family is actually one of the Void Hunters, which is quite impressive. What we have learned in version 1.2 is that Hoshimi Miyabi's mother is unfortunately deceased, and that Miyabi wants to go to the Chasm Memorial to meet with her mother. Then the other faction we have learned quite a lot about is Helios Academy, which Professor Archie is the founder of. We have learned that Bell and Wise is originally from Helios Academy and that their teacher is from there too, Parole Arna. It seems like everyone is blaming Bell and Wise's teacher, along with some others that hasn't been mentioned yet, for the fall of the old capital. Now Professor Archie was responsible for discovering Hollows, and he entered Hollow Zero to seek out the truth. This truth is probably about what really happened with Karol Arna and who really caused the fall of the old capital. After Professor Archie went to Hollow Zero, he hasn't returned yet and it has been a whole era already, so hopefully we will be able to find out what exactly happened to him and if we will get some playable characters from Helios Academy in the future. Let me know what you think about these upcoming characters in Zenless Zone Zero and who you are looking forward to the most. Peace out.